Shalom, shalom, shalom. Call hello Yahweh, Shemi Awashai, Shemi Kakwadash. Once again, double honors go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Salutations also go out to the fellow Akim that are out there on the highways and byways, pushing the truth with all sincerity. All right, trying to wake up the remaining hopefully elect. This is Nam out of the DC camp. So this video, I've tried for the last almost 3 days. Using other equipment I got, and for some reason it just would not load, but we're going to do this again for like the 4th time. So this is an Ishmaelite by the name of Shahid Boson. Alright, pretty good. And he's going to break down in a little over 15 minutes America in its base form. All right, what we've been trying to tell you, there's no future for us in this place. This place was designed as punishment for our people. It was never for our rest. And as the brother Kabar Yahawada down in Hawaii put up his latest video, he makes a point of making sure that we're not at rest here. He does everything. When you check the history, that's why I had that little book I carry with me. It's called How White Folks Got So Rich. And yet he uses these psychological tricks on Jake to make them think that you're solely responsible for your own condition. No. All right. As he stressed in that video about what happened out in LA, like in every other place where we built towns, settlements, whatever have you, to get away from them folks, what happened? They were destroyed. And as he mentioned in the video about LA, they had a version of a section in Harlem called Sugar Hill in LA. Very prominent Jakes that lived there. It wasn't a ghetto or anything like that, but out of jealousy and envy, what did they do? They built a highway. I think it's the Santa Monica Freeway through it. All right. But they left what's called Sorority Row for them folks. See, this was never meant for us. So what we're telling you and what we're out there on the highways and byways for is trying to wake our people up to the fact that, hey, America's done. Trust me, you do not want to go down on this sinking ship that is America. So let's go ahead and roll this video. I'm going to try to let it go as long as I can without interrupting just a few scriptures. But again, bear in mind when he's telling you this, that this place is our punishment. Keep in mind Daniel 9 verses 5 through 12. All right, because of our iniquities, sin upon sin upon sin. This is what was done. These are a result of the curses that were put upon us. And he's going to stress how this is a different slavery than anything else that the world had ever known. Again, Daniel chapter 9. All right.
Well, I mean, this is a typical pathology of the United States, to be honest. If you have something that they want, if you have something that they need, then they hate you. They demean you and they dehumanize you. You're not just an enemy to them, you're not even human. They need you to not be human so that they can morally justify to themselves all of the cruelty and the brutality that they will employ against you to exploit you, to use you, and to pillage whatever you have that they want. Because they want to be able to enslave and abuse you in good conscience. The most obvious example, of course, is slavery. But of course, that was just one, maybe the most acute and the most grotesque form of dehumanization that they did. But this is just their way. You know, from the enslaved Africans, they wanted their labor, and they wanted the wealth that was produced by their labor. Now, other nations had slaves. The Muslims had slaves too, but no one else in history, no one else in the world assigned slaves subhuman status. As I've talked about before, slaves in the Muslim world could rise to an even higher socioeconomic status than their masters. In the Muslim world, the slave and the owner were brothers, but in America,
Gotta stop it there. Okay, he's he's trying to. You know, I'm not gonna go in detail about it, but no, them Islamic Muslim motherfuckers did a job on Jake too. All right, but for purposes of this video, I'm just gonna go ahead, you know. But he is, as he's going to tell you, this system that we're currently in, because we're not out of it, we never were, is different from any other.
the slave was considered a beast of burden, and the owner of the slave was a sadistic beastmaster. Now, they needed it to be this way. They needed it to be this way because fundamentally, they do not know how or do not believe in peaceful, equitable transactions. They don't believe in mutual benefit. Mutual benefit to them represents some kind of loss for them. They don't believe in harmonious relations, fair transactions, fair exchange, and all of that. They believe in conquest. America was built on stolen land and sustained by stolen labor. And it has a long-standing habit, a tradition, of dehumanizing those who possess what it desires. So for the African slaves, they were dehumanized for their labor, for the sweat and tears that built the foundation of a nation claiming freedom for all. But they had to dehumanize them in order to make that claim, you see.
Hypocrites.
Because they wanted to be able to pretend that they were good, righteous, enlightened people who believed that all men are created equal. But they also wanted to continue treating African slaves as less than human, as less than equal. So they had to invent this idea that, well, they're not fully human, so therefore it doesn't count. It wasn't a violation of their principles to treat beasts of burden as unequal. By dehumanizing them, they were able to convince themselves that chattel slavery didn't contradict with their claims of virtue. Or you can look at the Native Americans. The indigenous inhabitants of that land for centuries were dehumanized for the richness beneath their feet, for the land. They were pushed to the margins. Their cultures were erased. The lands that they held sacred were violated, all for America's insatiable, ruthless hunger for more, for expansion, for dominance. They don't understand the idea of coexistence, of peace and harmony. They believe in the philosophy of the last man standing. That's their approach to the world. First within what's now the territorial United States, and then the entire Western Hemisphere, and then to the whole planet.
And it's for this that now there are efforts, all right, trying to drum up legislation. All right, they want to bring back Jim Crow. I did a couple of videos back about this and his lawyer laid it out. It is oppressive to the so-called white people here that Jake is roaming about what they consider freely, that they have authority over them. They consider that oppression. So you Jakes around here, all right, so-called living it up, not having a care in the world. Oh, oh my, hey, go ahead. All right, these people are not playing. Nothing has really changed. You fell for the illusion. I'll put it that way, because that's all this is. They let you know when you get out of hand. One traffic stop, that's all it takes. And our people have been conditioned, our people have been primed, all right, and set up in a way that, as I often have stated in the past, those things they did to us up until and even after the Civil Rights Movement. I'm trying to make a point here in that all those lynchings and things where Jake didn't do anything, and the images that were cast around the world of them sucking dogs on people that didn't do anything, and you know, the water hose, the fire hoses, water hoses, all that shit, that went around the world. So they had to do something. Shit, you know. So they had to make Jake into something that deserved all that. All right. There you have all the drugs in the neighborhood. All right. The crack epidemic. All that shit. Then comes gangster rap. Well, look at all these people there. They're constantly in jails. You have no idea. See, the things that we're trying to tell you, the lengths that these devils will go, all right, because of their hatred of us. This is biblical. The nation of Edom hates Jake, which is us, because at the end they want that birthright back, which they're never going to get. That's in Genesis 25th chapter. I mean, it's like, what else do these people need to do to us? But then again, you have to remember, 2/3 of our people got to go. There's no saving them. So they're going to continue to kiss this devil's ass for some buttered biscuits and, you know, a 2-piece and whatever have. That's why this place has got to go.
This is what they applied. Mexico, Central America, South America, you see the Latin Americans, their natural resources were sought, and so their sovereignty was trampled upon. America's pursuit of what it desires has always been characterized by exploitation, domination, and subjugation. For all their talk about capitalism and the market, you know, free exchange and so on, for all their talk about this, it's not what they practice, and it's not what they fundamentally believe.
Hypocrites.
For them, capitalism means we make the money, we make the profit, we benefit. Everything is ours and nothing is yours. Well, that's not capitalism.
What does the scripture say about that covetous man? All right, let's get that. There's a Sirach, or Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 9. It says, why is earth and ashes proud? Yeah, he's just a man, right? There is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man, for such an one setteth his own soul to sale, because while he liveth he casteth away his bowels. Let's get another one, because I just hinted there. Because at the end of the day, this is prophecy against the prince of Tyre. The Edomite, all right, has taken on this role. All right, I believe this particular king was Ithbaal III. Anyway, it says, the word of the Most High Yahweh came again unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, thus saith the Most High Yahweh, because thine heart is lifted up, and is no prouder people on this earth than these so-called white people. All right, they look at us like, what are you doing on our planet? And thou hast said, I am a God. I sit in the seat of God, in the midst of the seas, yet thou art a man, and not God. Though thou set thine heart as the heart of the Most High, behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. Look at all this technology and things like that, that, you know, as it says in Daniel, you know, knowledge shall increase. He's got all this, and yet what does he choose to do? Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. With thy wisdom and with thine understanding thou hast gotten thee riches, and hast gotten gold and silver into thy treasures. By thy great wisdom and by thy traffic hast thou increased thy riches, and thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches. Therefore thus saith the Most High, because thou hast set thine heart as the heart of God, behold, therefore I will bring strangers upon thee, the terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of thy wisdom, and they shall defile thy brightness. All right, they shall bring thee down to the pit, and thou shalt die the deaths of them that are slain in the midst of the seas. Isaiah 14th chapter. All right, also, let's go back to Sirach, because it addresses this there. This is the reason why, all right, there's going to be a transition here. It says, Sirach chapter 10, verse 8, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. So of those Jakes Those of you that are wishing that America continue forever, what hope is there for you, for us in that? Another reason why these 2/3 got to go. All right. And thankfully, the Most High is bringing this devil down no matter what. His birth rate has declined to the point where he's out of here. He's gone below that threshold of, for one person is born, one person dies. Once you dip below that, now it's for every person that's born, 2 die. So once you pass that, you're at the what they call a Rubicon point. There's point of no return.
Thing is yours. Well, that's not capitalism. It's barbarism. It's piracy.
Yeah.
You can't go into a business deal or a negotiation with that mentality. That's the mentality that you have when you commit a bank robbery, not a business agreement. But you see, they can't admit to themselves that they're actually just glorified pirates, glorified mafiosos, marauders, because they have a need to believe about themselves that they're good.
As the elder apostle Tahar always said, there's nothing more dangerous. I believe it was him. There's nothing more dangerous than a so-called white man in a suit and tie.
Good, enlightened, civilized people. So the only way that they can reconcile their barbaric instincts with their need to believe in their own goodness is by dehumanizing everyone else. Dehumanizing everyone who has what they want. And they want everything. The United States is the only country in the world who literally and seriously believes that control over the entire planet is vital to their national interests. Imagine.
Again, that covetous man, Habakkuk 2nd chapter. All right, let's go there. That covetous man. All right. The righteous shall live by faith. All right, it says, I'm going to start at 4. It says, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him. There's nothing righteous about these Edomites. You can't see that, but what's going on over there in Gaza? It's up to around 30,000 people, including women and children, babies. And you hadn't figured out they just want those people off that land? All right, but the just shall live by faith. Yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine, all right, meaning his doctrine, his democracy, all right, his philosophies. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death. Can death be satisfied? Nope. And cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb? That's what's happening now. Against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long? And to him that ladeth himself with fake clay, debt-based system, Ibatyath. All right. Shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? And that's what we are. We are prey here. All right. Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee. Because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Nahum, 3rd chapter. Amos, 1st chapter. And 11th verse. Woe to him that coveteth in evil covetousness to his house. So destruction to him, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. Thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people, and hast sinned against thy soul. For the stone shall cry out of the wall, and the beam out of the timber shall answer it. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, and established a city by iniquity. And there's a punishment for that. And that's way back in Numbers 35th chapter, 33rd verse. Your blood is required for all the blood that you shed, which goes all the way back to Genesis 9 and 6. All right, there's no getting out of this. There's no buying your way out of this. All right, let's go to Micah, 2nd chapter. It says, "Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand." What did I read in Ezekiel, 28th chapter? All right. "And they covet fields," or we go that covet, "and take them by violence, and houses, and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage." They've taken on the identity of someone else, namely us. They call themselves Israelis now, but they know they're not the Israelites. They played a game. All right. They run a con on the world. Flim flam man. All right. This is what they've done. Ezekiel 36th chapter. All right. Therefore thus saith the Most High Yahweh, "Behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your neck." So you're not getting away, like I said. "Neither shall ye go haughtily or proudly, for this time is evil." All right. So he's trying to, all this merging humans with machine and all this, he's trying to get out of that punishment that's coming his way. All right.
National interests, imagine. And we've gotten used to American dominance. We think the world actually has to operate like this. We imagine that there's no other way for international relations to be carried out except by means of hegemonic power. But of course that's not correct. Just because one country or even a few countries have more power than others, that does not necessarily mean or automatically mean that everyone else just has to kowtow to them and be exploited and be pushed around and do as they're told. It doesn't have to be like that. That's a Western model, and it originates from the Western psyche, which developed through their own peculiar history and their own peculiar culture. Not everyone's like that. In fact, most people aren't like that. Are you like that? Of course not. It's abnormal. The truth is that even most average Westerners, most average Americans are not like that. And I think it's even less and less prevalent now among the common people in the United States, precisely because their own government, their own elites are now dehumanizing even them, subjugating even them, treating their own citizens as a subcategory of the human race who deserve to be exploited and disposed of after use. That's how the West and how America is treating its own people now, not just the global South. And yes, it's abnormal, it's pathological, it's sick. And most people, even most states around the world, are not like that. There's something wrong with you. I mean, China's not like that. China, by most metrics, is the largest economy in the world. It's a global superpower, not a regional one. It's a global superpower. But it's not trying to dominate and subjugate the planet. The Chinese approach to international relations is compatible with the historic Muslim approach to international relations. This is why we get along. This approach is one of harmony, mutual benefit, bilateral and multilateral cooperation. They don't feel that they're losing money if both of you make money. They don't regard your prosperity or the prosperity of others as a threat to their own prosperity. They believe in mutually profitable transactions. You know, for the Chinese, if you have something that they want, if you have something that they need, well, that makes you important to them. It makes you someone that they want to get along with. It doesn't make you an enemy. It doesn't make you, or it doesn't make them want to invade and colonize you. And understand, this isn't necessarily based on any particular morality or moral principles. It's just simple practicality. It's good business. If you wage war on a country, then only some segments of your economy will benefit from that. You know, weapons companies, reconstruction-related industries, and so on. But there are huge segments of your economy which will suffer because of war. To the average Chinese business person, when they see casualty figures from, say, the war in Iraq or wherever else, they see from those casualty figures, well, that's just that many more people who will not be customers that we could have sold to because they're dead. That doesn't make practical sense. That's not good business sense. Forget about the moral right and wrong of it. just from a practical business perspective.
Let's roll that back because I got a notification, so kind of the sound went down. Hold on.
Segments of your economy will benefit from that. Weapons companies, reconstruction-related industries, and so on. But there are huge segments of your economy which will suffer because of war. To the average Chinese business person, when they see casualty figures from, say, the war in Iraq or wherever else, they see from those casualty figures, well, that's just that many more people who will not be customers that we could have sold to because they're dead. That doesn't make practical sense. That's not good business sense. Forget about the moral right and wrong of it. Just from a practical business perspective, casualties of war don't go shopping. Until recently, the U.S. economy was war-driven. It was the military-industrial complex. That was the driver of the American economy. But manufacturing as a percentage of the U.S. economy has declined considerably since Eisenhower first talked about the military-industrial complex. Things have changed a lot. I think it's reduced from around 32% to less than 10%. And about today, about 90% of American manufacturing is not connected to the U.S. military. That means that other business sectors have greater influence than they used to. Business sectors that may not necessarily benefit from war, but could actually be hurt by war. And as the domestic economic dynamics have changed, as you know, so too have the domestic power dynamics with the rise of private sector power and the globalization of private sector power, to where now the owners and controllers of global financialized capital are no longer tied to American prosperity. In other words, the old American model of domination and subjugation is not as appealing as it used to be, because the OCGFC have more diverse interests around the world. And I think that they, being profit-driven and being practical, are going to be inclining more and more towards the Chinese approach to international affairs, the Muslim approach to international affairs, the BRICS approach to international affairs. And I think that's what's happening. Because yes, there will always be a segment of, say, Larry Fink's portfolio of BlackRock clients who can profiteer in the wake of war. But at this point, I think that there's a far greater proportion of clients in his portfolio who won't benefit from war and who would be harmed, whose interests would be harmed by war. And that means the death of Washington neocons. So the military-industrial complex created a monster, the neocons, the neoconservatives in Washington, whose policy proposals for any kind of international policy proposals always involve bombing. So they created this monster, but now that monster is redundant. It's obsolete. It's become a liability. But it's like an old device that cannot support a software upgrade. They can't adapt to the new political and economic landscape. So you still have these dinosaurs like Victoria Nuland calling for war with Iran, for example. But the OCGFC, in my opinion, do not want a war with Iran. So you have this comical exchange that took place, that reportedly took place between the U.S. and Iran during talks in Switzerland, where they were telling Iran, let us conduct some attacks inside of Iran just for show, basically to appease the dying wishes of the neocons on their deathbed. But please don't retaliate. We don't mean it. Just let us do some attacks, and we won't escalate after that. And of course, Iran said, well, no. If you attack us, we will regard it as an act of war, and we will retaliate against your bases in the Middle East. Of course, attacks against U.S. bases in the Middle East will mean the destruction of everything that BRICS and the OCGFC and BlackRock have planned for the region. So no, Washington, I don't think, is going to get the approval for that.
You know why Biden is.
So then Biden is left with the only way to appease the neocons being to attack Iranian assets outside of Iran, attack them in Iraq and in Syria and so on. So you see how they're getting put in check? Because the global power dynamics have changed, and the U.S. is being forced now to try to adapt. And it's an entirely new experience for them. And they're adapting badly. Because again, it's just not their nature. They're offended at any constraints on their belligerence. They're indignant at the idea that the whole world should not just offer them tribute and gratefully subordinate themselves to American power. They can't stand it. It doesn't compute in their minds. This is a habit of thinking that predates their actual power, and then having power just made it worse. And I don't think that anyone, most of all the OCGFC, believe that they can ever change. And that's why I think America is gradually being sidelined and being abandoned by the global elite.
Yep.
Because they're incapable of updating their software. They're incapable of updating their mentality. And they're incapable of civilizing. Because having had the ability to impose their will around the world meant that they never had to civilize. And they don't actually possess any
To borrow the quote from Willie D, he calls them uncivilized mutts, and that's exactly what it, nothing has changed just because they wear a suit. All right, you're dealing with a base man. Job 30th chapter. That's why they were driven from the darkened nations up into the Caucasus. They never changed. They can't. All right.
internal motivation to do so, and they never did. So ultimately, I think that they're going to be left behind. And it's starting to dawn on them, I think, that they're being left behind. But at the moment, I think they're still in denial. I think they're in denial. I mean, because, look, practically speaking, how exactly are you supposed to ever dial back from dehumanizing whole nations, whole countries, whole populations, and then treat them and expect to be treated by them in any kind of normal way? I mean, again, look at the situation inside the U.S. with African Americans. Until today, the racial situation in that country isn't normal. They still don't know how to deal with each other in any kind of a normal way. And the same applies now for the rest of the world and the U.S. Their relations with the rest of the world is very similar to their relations between the former slave owners and the former slaves. Because you dehumanize people. And how are you supposed to get past that? How are you supposed to get that out of your own mind, and how are they supposed to get it out of their own mind about you? It's very difficult. So now the same dynamic, the same dysfunction is going to potentially permanently plague America's relations with the rest of the planet. I mean, in some ways, you could say that the BRICS countries, are almost performing a kind of an intervention, like with an alcoholic or a drug addict. Mm-hmm. The U.S. is reaching rock bottom, and BRICS is performing an intervention to force them to see, to face what they really are and how they really are, and forcing them to see the way they're going to have to be if they want to recover any kind of respectable role in the world. But until now, I think the U.S. is in denial. They can't face it.
Yep.
You know, Europe is kind of like that last friend of a drug addict who sticks by them until the end. Until finally the addict steals from them and lies to them and betrays them too, and eventually they'll lose even that friend. You know, it's like that song says, America's smoking all of its friends down to the filter, and the inevitable reckoning is coming, and it's going to be hard. But by the time it comes, I don't think anyone will really be interested, because by that time the world will have already moved on.
Burned all those bridges. You didn't just burn them. You put a hydrogen bomb on it. But he's right in that, and that's scriptural, because we're coming into the time, actually we're already there, right here, hold on, let me move this. It's going to culminate with this. This is Revelation 17 and 15. It says, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore in America is that a whore, sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. What are those 10 horns? That goes into the EU when it was established in 1957, 1958, that charter. And then NATO, all that coming out of what it was from the League of Nations from World War I and World War II. Yeah, so that's what initially it was. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore and shall make her desolate and naked. All right, because they see America for what it is. America has been doing some dirty shit behind the scenes to its own supposed allies. All right, it said, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Those 10 toes from the book of Daniel, that statue, the iron mixed with miry clay, it's falling apart. That union, all right. For the Most High has put in their hearts to fulfill His will and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. All right. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Yeah, everyone wants to imitate America. Everyone wanted to come to America. They saw it like roads paved with gold. And they laid with this whore a little while, and they figured out, oh shit. Now because of that democracy, that wine, that filthy doctrine and philosophy. Oh, no. But it's contaminated them. It's infected them. We keep telling you this place is done. All right. I just want you to hear from someone else that could articulate it like he did. All right. So that's everything's been said that can be said. I just hope, all right, whoever views this, that you've been edified. That's what we do here at Great Millstone. All right. Filtering everything through the scriptures as it should be done. And I'd like to remind everyone about the importance of prayer. All right. Especially now. So with that, until the next video, Shalom.